All right, today we are going to be linguistic detectives. Why? Because we're solving a mystery that's hidden inside a word you probably use all the time: regret. It seems so simple, but trust me, it's hiding a fascinating double life. So take a look at these two sentences. On the left, you've got, I regret that it is raining. Easy enough, right? It's just a feeling of sadness about a fact. But then look at the one on the right. The train, I regret to say, is canceled. Now, is the speaker really feeling some deep personal sorrow about that train? Probably not. They're using the phrase as a polite way to drop some bad news. It's the same verb, but it's doing two completely different jobs. And that, right there, is our central question. How on earth did one little word, regret, evolve to handle these two totally distinct roles? It's a puzzle, and we are going to piece together the clues to solve it. Okay, so let's start by getting a really clear picture of our two suspects here. Because in modern English, regret is basically moonlighting. The first use, I regret that it's raining, is all about what's going on inside your head. It's a raw, emotional state about something that's true. But that second one, I regret to say, isn't really about a feeling at all, is it? It's a social tool. It's like linguistic bubble wrap that we use to soften the blow of bad news. Now, to really understand just how strange this whole situation is, we need to dust off the old grammatical rulebook, the very one that regret seems to have just thrown right out the window. And this, my friends, is where it gets really, really interesting. So the key concept we need to get is something called factivity. It sounds kind of technical, but the idea is actually super simple. A factive verb is a word that just assumes that whatever follows it is true. So when you say, I regret that it's raining, you're not questioning it, you're taking for granted that it is in fact raining. And this table just lays it out perfectly. Look at that left column. Verbs like regret, know, realized, they're all factive. They treat the next part of the sentence as a done deal. But then look at the right. Words like suppose, think, said, they don't do that. If I say I think that he left, I'm signaling, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. There's wiggle room. And here is the plot twist. According to the old school linguistic rulebook, a true factive verb like regret was just not supposed to be used as a parenthetical, as one of those little side comments you can just stick in a sentence. So the fact that we can even say, the train I regret to say is canceled, is a huge grammatical anomaly. It's a total rule breaker. So if it's a rule breaker, how exactly does this new version of regret work today? Let's jump ahead and look at the evidence from our language right now, where this little phrase has taken on a whole bunch of new jobs. Yeah, researchers have actually pinned down 5 main ways we use it. We use it to soften bad news that affects everybody, or to soften bad news just for you, like when someone's politely turning you down. It can also introduce a complaint, function as a straight-up apology, or sometimes it's just there to structure a comment, kind of like saying unfortunately. And what's the one thing all of these have in common? Think about it. They aren't commenting on the bad news itself. They're commenting on the act of telling you the bad news. The speaker is managing the whole social interaction. They're basically signaling, hey, I know this stinks, and I'm trying to say it as nicely as I can. It's a perfect example of how language changes to meet our social needs. Okay, so we've seen the crime scene, a factive verb that's completely broken the rules. Now let's hop into our linguistic time machine and find out how this radical change actually happened. Well, the history books show this really slow, gradual shift. Back in Shakespeare's day, regret was pretty rare. But then, in the late 1600s, it starts getting cozy with verbs like to see. And then, in 1834, our main suspect, I regret to say, finally makes its first appearance on paper. So how did we get there? Well, it all started with constructions like this one. Here, regret is just a noun. It's describing the feeling you have while you're doing something. They are literally seeing with regret. This was step 1. And then comes this tiny but absolutely massive shift in the grammar. The whole idea of doing something with regret gets repackaged into this regretted to see. Now, the verb regret is directly modifying the verb see. And this is the missing link we were looking for. This change created the crucial blueprint. Once the pattern regret to do something was established in people's minds, it was a really short, logical leap. I mean, if you can regret seeing something, it makes perfect sense that you could also regret saying something. This was the innovation that changed absolutely everything.
Okay, so now we have all the clues. Let's put them all together and officially solve the mystery of regret's secret life.
So here's the solution. I regret to say was born from this earlier phrase, I regret to see, and over time it's just kind of fossilized. It became its own fixed chunk of language, a parenthetical, and its job totally changed. It detached itself from the actual message, the tale, and attached itself to the act of communication, the telling.
And here's the proof. This chart is incredible. It tracks how regret has been used over time. Now just look at that bar on the far right from modern English. That huge section in dark gray, that's what linguists call modification of illocution, which is just a fancy way of saying our I regret to say function. It's almost completely taken over. The original, purely emotional use is now super rare.
So, to sum up the whole journey, it really happened in 3 key steps. Regret starts its life as a pure emotion about a fact. Then it learns a new trick, modifying an action, like seeing. And from there, it makes that final, crucial leap to modifying the act of speaking itself. Ultimately, the story of I Regret to Say isn't just about one word breaking the rules. It shows us something fundamental about language. It's not some dusty old rulebook that's set in stone. No, it's a living, breathing tool that is constantly adapting and innovating to meet our social needs, like the very important need to break bad news without sounding like a jerk. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? If a simple, everyday word like regret can have such a complex and wild history, what other words that we use every single day are hiding their own secret lives just waiting for us to discover them?